Hello folks and welcome. This exciting video is for eCure 809 and we're going to talk about focus groups. And focus groups is a really exciting way to generate excitement and information about a particular topic that allows you to have economies of scale and that you're maximizing the number of people that are involved. So we're going to talk about some of the reasons why you would do it, some of the protocols that are a part of it, and then hopefully you'll have a better understanding because you may have been in a focus group before and people have asked you all kinds of questions and it may not have made a whole lot of sense, and what we're going to do today is hopefully have it make sense. And so I'm just doing the screen grab here, and so if I'm looking off furtively, it's just to make sure I've got some of the other items that I want to take a look at. All right. Okay, there we go. So what are they? Basically, a way to reach out to potential users for feedback and comment. And you can see my notes in the bottom. Organizations generally use focus groups in planning, marketing, evaluation, improve a specific product. More globally, the development of strategic plans and mission statements. You would use them to engage your stakeholders and to get data from the stakeholders. So you may have a focus group at the beginning when you're doing the planning, but most likely you'd have a focus group after you have determined your questions, what you want to do, when you already have your focus, and then you would work with them. Okay. The idea behind that is you're not surveying them, you're not asking yes or no questions, you're not asking them to fill out forms, but you're trying to facilitate a discussion that allows people to engage in dialogue, so opinions, beliefs, attitudes about an organization. The other thing is you can use it to test assumptions. So if you've done some initial survey work and you want to have follow-up and you want to see what's going on, then you can use the focus group to get people to comment and tell you exactly how they feel about something. Discussion about a topic. Again, there are limited advantages to doing surveys and questionnaires because you can't have that probing, you can't have that follow-up with a group of people. There are issues around groupthink, but there's also a lot of benefit that can come from it, and so there are good reasons to have focus groups. Building excitement, and if you've ever facilitated a focus group and somebody throws out a really great idea and then all of a sudden, oh, everybody's talking about it and they're engaged and they're excited about it, and that can be a tremendous benefit to an organization to uncover things and to create that shared understanding. And then just to learn more about a topic. And so if you think it's always going to be a one-way transfer of information with focus group, well, think about the other way. It's a way of sharing a message, getting some comments on it, but also getting that knowledge or information into a larger group, kind of like an organized town hall, if you will. 3 phases. So it's actually a pretty practical process to work with focus groups. So you're not just getting a bunch of people together and saying, hey, what do you think? And then all right, get out of here. Okay, you're actually planning, you have it, and then there's that post-focus group reflection and the work that goes into it that is equally really important. So let's just break these down. So first of all, the objectives of the focus group. Clear and specific, and the more defined, the easier it is for the rest of the progress, or process rather. And we've talked about planning in this course and how crucial planning is. Well, here's another aspect of planning that you'll be able to work with. When you have your focus group, you don't want people shooting off in all kinds of directions. So I talked about the spontaneity and the excitement. Yes, you want that, but you also want people to keep in mind why they're there. And if you've done some survey work or you've done some document review, some observation, this allows you the opportunity to have a grounding and start to provide some direction for what's going on. Sometimes a focus group is a way of just testing recommendations and theories as well, but I like to use it more as a way of generating core data. Okay. Oops. So first and foremost, establish a timeline. When do you want this to happen? There's a lot of logistical issues that come into play when you're working with a focus group because you've got all kinds of different stakeholders that may have, if you're trying to determine if a particular process works and the program is delivered at a certain time, well, those people may not be available to you. Or the core people may be busy at a certain time, but the other participants may be busy at a different time. So you have to figure out how you're going to negotiate that and establish that timeline. How many people? And there's this is part of the magic of focus groups. Around 6 to 12. So any fewer than 6, then you really don't have that critical mass. You want to invite 12 because there's always going to be somebody who bails. There's going to be somebody who's sick or can't get whatever and can't make it. And so if you get a critical mass by working in that range, I try to start at 10 because I know a couple are going to be away or whatever, and there'll still be enough that you can have some good discussion. The other thing is, what knowledge must they have? So what are the key attributes to the people you're inviting? Is it they've worked in a program, they've participated in a program, all those kinds of things. And there is some brainstorming. Ask the other stakeholders who they think should be involved. And oftentimes they will help you or direct you to a certain group of people. Whoever your administrators are, the people who are running the program, the most important people in the school, most important people in a school are the secretary and the custodian. Well, those are the people that maybe you want to ask the folks that aren't as high up the food chain, who should be involved in providing information. This stuff, working with your organization, they will generally have access to contact information based on the way that the program has been set up. So you may not get it directly. You may have to give it to the organization and they would forward it on your behalf. And oftentimes that works better because they may not know that an evaluation is happening. And so it's nice for them to get an email or an invite from a familiar or a friendly person or someone they have a relationship with, and you're more likely to have those people engage. Hide behind water. Finalize the list and then send out the invitation. Generate the questions. So got people on the go, but you're going to go back and take a look at the questions you'll have for the focus group. And they may be offshoots of the questions that you have designed for other surveys. And if you think about the previous week's gathering, we talked about good questions and how you would start really broad, come up with the themes, break them down, and generate that really specific group. So you don't want to have a bunch of yes or no questions. You don't want to have the ones that are really going to baffle people or full of jargon. So all the same criteria that go into creating those good questions that we talked about before come into play when you're doing a focus group. And you will have a set of questions. And you will have a script. And I'll show you what a script looks like. You'll continue to rewrite them. You order them. Hey, we work from general to specific. So again, good test creation strategies come into play. You always start with the warm-up questions or the easy ones to build people's confidence or to generate a sense of community in the room. And it's no different when you're doing a focus group. You want people to not be put on the spot right away. You want them to talk and speak, and you may have a group of people that don't really know each other that well, and so you want to bring them in and have them learn about each one another, and so they can develop that sense of trust. Okay. Developing a script is really important. So again, we're just in our initial stages of preparing for a focus group. This is where, as you can see, the time for the facilitator to welcome the group, introduce the purpose, the context, okay. You've got questions, and then you've got a wrap-up. So if I come over here, I've got this example. Here's a protocol for the 4-H club. So they've got this script. Now, why is the script important? Because if you have people outside of you doing your evaluation, they may get crazy. They may not understand. They may not be consistent. And if you're doing multiple focus groups, you want to have that consistency throughout. So if you have a script, everybody sees it, you can share it, it's awesome. So protocol, this is what's going on. Here's the outline of what's happening. So the person who's delivering it, they know what's going on. Things that you need as well. Consent forms. Oh no. All of these components that you have to have ready before you do it. And then a set of ground rules. So if you're using a talking circle, for example, you may want to set that up and let people know. We are recording the session, so be aware of what's going on. You've signed the consent form, you've agreed to be here, and this is part of the process. Turn off your cell phone, all those other things. And then, once you have begun, then you get started. This one, because these are people involved in 4-H, this is what they're talking about. Let's get to know you. Let's talk about your projects. Let's focus on the outlet. So it's getting much more specific. And you'll notice that in addition to having the question, there are probes built in here as well. And so people can look at them and go, oh, okay, I didn't get the right question or the right answer. So how would I follow that up? It's way easier to have those ready than to do it on the fly. People can do it on the fly, but it doesn't always work as well. So you can see there's all kinds of really good questions, and you don't have to ask them all. You can skip some, but the fact you've got them there and you have everything laid out is really, really important. So that's an example of a script, and I'm quite certain there's one of those in the Blackboard course. All right, okay. So more before. Select a facilitator. Have someone who works well with people, who's done this previously, who isn't someone who's going to panic, has good interpersonal skills. I think that's really important. I do lots of facilitating. I enjoy it. I've done it for all kinds of other groups as well as my own work. I like getting together with a group. I like to listen, which is really, really important. If you have a facilitator that just wants to go on and run the show, then you're not going to hear from your participants. And that's a really important characteristic or trait that you want your facilitator to have. As you get more comfortable facilitating, as teachers, we facilitate our classes all the time. There are so many similarities between what a strong teacher does and what a strong facilitator does. So generally someone along those lines. So maybe someone you are working with right now, someone on your staff, someone in your office might be a good person to be the facilitator. Choose an appropriate location. And sometimes we don't think about this. Well, we'll just have it in the school. Well, people don't always feel comfortable in the same location. So there's all kinds of issues. Or if they have it in the classroom and everybody sits in teeny tiny chairs and they feel really uncomfortable and it's just awkward. And so find somewhere comfortable. Use a staff room, use a meeting room or your ILC or your library or whatever you're calling it these days, your learning commons. And that should be a place where people feel safe and comfortable. I don't know how many of us have corporate or upscale locations available. Maybe people do. But it should accommodate people so that they're not all crammed in. And this is another thing. Is it easily accessible? Is there free parking? There's nothing that can ruin your focus group more than having to deal with parking. And I know I've had to do that where you get prepaid parking cards and you hand them out and all sorts of things like that happen. So make sure you've thought of those before you choose your location. All of those things, which may seem really silly, but if someone comes in and they're grumpy because they couldn't find a parking spot and then they're late and then you've started your focus group and then you have to start over again and they have to sign the consent form, things can really go off the rails. So this appropriate location selection is really something important to consider. Logistics. So I'm looking if I have stuff hanging around here. When I do a focus group, I've got all kinds of material that I bring. So if you look at this list, do you want people to take their own notes so they can go back to it later? Do you want to say, okay, I'm going to give you a question, I want you to think about it, but write a few notes down and then we'll get back to it. Sometimes it's really handy to have that. And if you don't have it, that will be the time that people really want it. Do you need a laptop? Are you demonstrating a website, or are you showing your logic model to this group? Are you talking about other data? Maybe you've taken video about a process and you want them to comment on it, so it's great to have that technology. And if you haven't planned, the worst thing to do before you're calmly about to facilitate a group is running around looking for a laptop or those kinds of things. Flip charts are great. The script, your script, so what I just showed you, don't go to all the work to prepare something like this and then forget it. Because what's the point? So make sure you have that, the list of participants, markers, masking. Name tags are really important. How do you create identity? Well, so much of a person's identity is wrapped up in who they are. And so give people, piece of, I keep all the old mailing labels. And, the Avery list, instant name tags. Peel those off. Somebody draws their name on in their business. Refreshments are always good to have. I know it's important to feed people, especially if they're coming after work. Like, bring in a meal, bring them supper, bring in a whole bunch of lasagna and Caesar salad, and they'll be more than happy to come. Water even, especially if it's cold or dry or whatever. Make sure you're aware of what's going on. Even just little nibbly snacks that people can have. Make sure you keep track of the time. If you don't have a watch or a clock available, bring your phone, and then you can keep track of what's going on. All those things, they may seem like a lot, but you'll have your little doctor's bag full of everything, and you're just running. And as long as you keep all this stuff together, then it's not as big of a panic. And now you actually do it. So, oh my gosh, we're finally at the point where we thought we were going to be at the beginning of this silly broadcast, Jay. Set the tone, have fun, feel good about the session. Well, people aren't always going to have fun, and there's going to be some tension, especially about things that people hold near and dear to themselves. But do your best to keep things light and keep the conversation going. But don't be worried if people engage in heated debate or conversation, as long as it's respectful and as long as it's moving things along. Personal attacks, things like that, then you're going to have to jump in. And that's where you may have to do the old boys and girls, remember, let everyone talk, but not at the same time. That's especially important if you're recording it, because you will be trying to take notes, and if people are talking all at the same time, if you don't have those notes, then sometimes it's hard to keep track of who's doing what. Encourage quiet group members. There's no sense in inviting someone there just to sit. Everyone should participate. Encourage full answers. Follow up with probes. So if people have, if they say something and they just haven't really articulated it, it's okay to draw that out of them. If you're going to be there, though, for an hour, be there for an hour. Don't be like me. Don't impose upon people's time and take up all their extra time and energy. Keep things on track. Try to answer all or most of the questions. But if you miss a question, you miss a question. But you have to have those ones that are really, really important and make sure you get to them. Again, opinion is a nasty thing. So try to keep things on track as far as facts go as much as you can, and people, just ensure people are being respectful. Did I miss that? Yes. Okay, so we're done. Thank you for coming. Having a nice night. Drive safe. Whatever. Okay. And as soon as you're done, then what you should do is summarize what's going on. So right after the session, okay, it says here in the notes, the quick turnaround time helps avoid memory lapses. Even when you're recording it, things slip away, or if your battery dies, and you should never have anything that relies on a battery, plug it in. If you've got AC, plug in your camera, plug in your recorder, have extra batteries, because that will happen. But it's really important for you to be taking notes at the same time, because those are your initial analyses of what's going on. So, okay, so this is good, and this is a theme. And then when you go back to the recording, you can confirm whether or not you wrote it down, and you can get those exact quotes because you can listen to them over and over again very closely. Like, okay, so-and-so said, I love it, and then you can use that as a way of supporting what's going on. So right away. So don't say, okay, I'm going to do a focus group from 7 to 8, and then I'll be home for supper at 8:15. You're probably going to be there for another couple of hours going through it and making sure that everything you've done has been summarized. Maybe not a couple of hours, but I think it's really important. The other idea is that you want to transcribe whatever notes you have as soon as it's over, write a summary, and you've got that. Then you begin to analyze it. So you look through. When you're facilitating, it's great to have the recording. So after we've recorded it, we've got that information, we're writing it down as soon as possible. And then you go through it and you realize that while you were thinking about the next question or person over there or trying to have everybody play nice and cooperate, that something slipped through. And so it's amazing when you read through and go, oh, okay, yeah, oh, that's neat. So I see this here, here, and here. That's clearly a theme that we're going to have to address or include in what's going on. So that's really interesting, but that's the kind of phase 2, and that can happen after you've gone through, you've summarized all that data, and you start to really create a picture of what's going on. And then you're writing the report. So with each focus group, you're actually writing a mini report of what happened. So what are the highlights? What are they? And you can take that data, much the same way we talk about case study as a way of finding out about a program. When we use the focus group, we have that repository or that information that we can use, and then it can be inserted. Parts of it can be pulled out, put in, but it's always good to have that. And you'll notice that we talk about the background, the purpose, how many people were there. All of those things are in one document, and it can be very important. It's supporting, so you've got your survey data, and then here's the focus group and the report that came out of it and the things that we found very, very helpful. You know, when you get a chance to do these, when you get all your gear together, it's a big production, it's a big show, but it really is an interesting way of getting people together, people from various different parts of an organization or a whole group that work on one thing but never really get a chance to talk about that one thing on a regular basis, or people who have gone through a program together but were never really asked to debrief. Here's your certificate, here, thank you, go on, change the world, whatever. But maybe they want to get together with that group again and really talk about the things that happened. It's like after you're done a hand of Kaiser, right? Oh, I thought you had the 3, but you had the 5, you know, that kind of a thing. Focus group, it's the same idea. It really allows you to generate some excellent data. So hopefully this is useful, and I'll see you soon, I'm sure.